The Spanish Armada in Ireland refers to the landfall made upon the coast of Ireland in September 1588 of a large portion of the 130-strong fleet sent by Philip II to invade England. Following its defeat at the naval battle of Gravelines, the Armada had attempted to return home through the North Atlantic when it was driven from its course by violent storms towards the west coast of Ireland. The prospect of a Spanish landing alarmed the Dublin government of Queen Elizabeth I, which prescribed harsh measures for the Spanish invaders and any Irish who might assist them. Up to 24 ships of the Armada were wrecked on a rocky coastline spanning 500 kilometres from Antrim in the north to Kerry in the south, and the threat to Crown authority was readily defeated. Many of the survivors of the multiple wrecks were put to death, and the remainder fled across the sea to Scotland. It is estimated that some 6,000 members of the fleet perished in Ireland or off its coasts. Greenway is a legendary Irish pirate that lived in Ireland in the 16th century. She sailed from island to island along the west coast with her fleet of ships. She raided as she went, building up a great hoard of wealth and earning her title as the Pirate Queen. She was also one of the last Irish leaders to defend against English rule in Ireland. Grania was born into the O'Malley family in 1530. They were a noble seafaring family that lived in County Mayo, and her father was chieftain of his clan. During her lifetime, Grania was married twice. The first marriage was to Donal O'Flaherty and the second to Richard Burke. Both families were very powerful in Connacht. At this time, King Henry VIII of England was trying to increase his rule across Ireland, but Grania and her family refused to allow the English into Galway Bay. The clashes with England got worse after her second husband, Richard, died. She was a strong, brave woman, but she was eventually arrested by the English in 1584, and Connacht was brought under English rule. According to legend, she is buried on her family's land on Clare Island, but this has never been proven. Achill Island lies off County Mayo on the west coast of the Republic of Ireland, marked by rugged mountains and peat bogs. The island is known for its tall sea cliffs and very clean beaches. Its breezy shoreline makes it a popular spot for water sports. Well folks, I'm here in the west of Ireland on Achill Island. the scene and some of the scenes where the Banshees of Inisheer were filmed. It's quite windy, the seas are raging mad, absolutely washing machine turbulence and over the top madness, as you can see. But the atmospherics here are just spectacular. Traditionally, every farmer had his own turf bank. 1 week's backbreaking work in spring provided his family with enough fuel for a year. Turf cutters often worked in gangs, cutting squares of peat and throwing them onto the side of the bank. They used a special two-bladed spade called a shlone. Over the following weeks, they rearranged the peat sods in ever larger stacks before carrying them home on their backs or by donkey and cart. The deserted village here at Schlievemore provides a haunting reminder of times past here on Achill Island. Set at the foot of the south-facing slope of Schlievemore Mountain, the deserted village consists of the remains of almost 100 stone cottages set either side of an old pathway. Almost all are aligned in the same north-south orientation, and the settlement extends for a distance of just over 1 mile. The deserted village can be divided into 3 segments from east to west: Tuair, Rabnock and Fauca. However, these local place names are associated with grazing rather than settlement, and there appears to be no name for the village itself. Locally, it has been referred to as Schlievemore, Slewmore and Booley village and the deserted village. Through study of the field systems surrounding the deserted village, archaeological investigation and historical research, it has been established that settlement dates at least to the Anglo-Norman period of 12th century AD. The presence of a megalithic tomb close to the village dating from the 3rd or the 4th century BC indicates habitation in this area some 5,000 years ago. Well folks, standing here on the lower slopes of a pretty high mountain on the western slopes on the island of Achill, here overlooking a deserted Irish village from bygone times. It's pretty cold, it's awfully wet and it's very windy, but the sleeves are rolled up and I'm out and about on foot. So this is a majestic sight and I need to show you this from the air. The most recent period of habitation came to an end in the early 20th century, when the local population used cottages for bullying. As a bully house, they were occupied during the summer months, when cattle would be grazed on the mountainside, but the residents would return to their homes in the village of Dua for the winter months. Achill is thought to be one of the last places in Europe to have practiced bullying. Walking around the deserted village is an eerie yet beautiful experience. You can still see the potato ridges that are almost hidden beneath the grass, abandoned more than 100 years ago. Meanwhile, standing within the ruined cottage walls offers a glimpse of a far more simple existence. but perhaps one more in tune with the natural world. The atmosphere of the deserted village is unique. Its remoteness, a feeling of almost intruding on those who lived here, a sense of frugality of life in such a place and time, and the overall air of mystery. Who were they? Why did they settle here? How did they survive? And why did they leave? The houses were built of unmortared stone, which means that no cement or mortar was used to hold the stones together. Each house consisted of just one room, and this room was used as a kitchen, living room, bedroom, and even stable. The doorways were east-facing, while one small window was built into the northeast wall. While one or two houses may have had a small stable built onto the end of the house, most families had to share their house with cows and other livestock, who would be brought into the house at night and tied at the southern end. The tethering rings can still be seen in some of these houses. Most of the houses had opposing doorways to facilitate families on their daily task of milking cows. The cow was taken in one door, milked, and then taken out through the opposing door. Inside many houses, a shallow channel or drain in the floor led into a manure pit outside the building. This feature, along with opposing doorways, suggests an earlier building phase. According to archaeologists, the field systems and the lazy beds found in this area indicate several occupation phases. Also, some remains suggests there was a settlement here during the Anglo-Norman period. The village was gradually abandoned because of the many evictions for non-payment of rent during Sir Richard O'Donnell's tenure. The 1845 to 49 famines and the emigration throughout the successive years. The deserted village of Slievemore is one of the best known sites on Achill. The deserted settlement lies on the foothills of Mount Slievemore, straddling the 70-metre contour. In the first edition Ordnance Survey of 1838, 137 houses were recorded, of which traces of 74 houses can still be made out. The buildings are of dry stone construction, and the walls often survive up to their original height. Over 90% of the houses are aligned north-south at right angles to the street. The majority of the houses at Slievemore were one-roomed cabins called byre houses, where livestock were kept at one end during the winter, separated from the humans at the other end by a small channel. This type of dwelling was the prototype of the classic three-roomed house that we can still see on Achill Island villages today. Well folks, I'm here on the famous beach, Keene Beach, in Achill Island, and the location of where the Banshees of Inisherin were filmed. And it was here and on this location a lot of the sequences were filmed for the Banshees of Inisherin. Today the waves are rough and tumble, as you can see, white topped and vicious looking. And I don't know if I can get across here because I've rather vicious looking stream in front of me, but I'm going to try it. So from Keene Beach on Achill Island, take care. It's turned into a horrendous afternoon now. An absolutely horrendous afternoon. High winds, gales, rain, tidal surges, rough seas, but very atmospheric. Very, very atmospheric. When you come this west, this far west in Ireland, in the middle of November, be prepared for inclement weather. It's horrendous now.
From railway to Greenway. The Great Western Midlands Railway was one of the so-called Balfour lines, called after Arthur J. Balfour, Chief Secretary for Ireland during the years 1887 to 1891, who introduced Light Railways Ireland Act, which provided state assistance for the construction of narrow gauge lines to disadvantaged areas such as West Mayo.
Well folks, Kate and I are here on the Great Western Greenway, having started early this morning at Mulranny Hotel on the mainland, and we're well and truly on our way on the Great Western Greenway, and we're heading on out to Achill Island. It's a fair cycle, it's quite breezy as you can probably hear, but the sun is shining and the gods are with us. So I'm now going over a humpback bridge here, so I need to watch what I'm doing.
The first station on this extension line was Newport, which opened in February 1894, followed by Mallarany in August of the same year. The line to Achill was completed in May 1895.
We now have reached a section of the Great Western Greenway, and as you can see from my pictures, it's gravel, loose aggregate, so won't hand on the handlebars today because I forgot an attachment for the roving camera, so I need to be awfully careful. I don't want to become a cropper and fall into a bog.
The promoters of the line had high hopes for the future, as it proved to be a great social and economic asset to West Mayo. However, traffic never consistently reached the levels originally anticipated. Development of road traffic in the 1930s sealed the fate of the line. The last train ran in the autumn of 1937, a mere 42 years after the line had originally opened.
Now I'm told that this was the first of the national greenways that was constructed for walking and for cycling. So this one needs a little bit of TLC in long sections of it, but nevertheless It's absolutely beautiful. The scenery is just magnificent. So bear with me while I try and survive through the sections that need extreme vigilance and caution. Now all of a sudden, if you can hear me, we have had to go on to the side of the main road from Mulrenny to Achill Sound. This is a new section of the Great Western Greenway. Well folks, we've had a pit stop here in the wilderness of County Mayo. I'm looking out there towards Clew Bay. It's quite blustery, to be quite honest with you. I'm rather hot. I've got a lot of clobber on, so it adds to the central heating for the body. But this is a magnificent part of the world here. It's very, very wild, very natural, and we are about 30 minutes, 40 minutes away from crossing the Achill Sound and onto Achill Island. Now after yet another deviation, we're right smack onto a most beautiful resurfaced area on the Great Western Greenway, and the wind is howling at my head. This is like going down an autobahn. It's so wide and it's so smooth and it's so recent. So I think up to last week this section may have been blocked off to people for cycling and walking, but now it's open to the public, and we're laying claim to it for our adventure this morning. A lot of you guys out there continue to ask me and my friends, how in the name of God do you keep doing this, walking and cycling and being out in the great outdoors and not get tired? I don't get tired. I never get tired, and hopefully I won't get tired. To be quite honest, folks, it's been out in the great outdoors, whether I'm walking, swimming, cycling, or whatever the hell I'm getting up to. It keeps me going. It keeps me mobile. It keeps me loose. It keeps me happy. And above all, it keeps me sane, healthy, and alive. There are many deviations on this Great Western Greenway. As I said to you earlier on today, it's the first of the great greenways of Ireland. It was the very first one that was constructed for the use of the public to get out and about and enjoy this marvellous country that we live in. Well, folks, we've arrived on Ackle Island and the sun is shining. Oh, we got the mother and father of a hail shower 20 minutes ago as we came on towards Ackle Sound and crossing the bridge. But the sun is out, so we're on Ackle Island. And now we're heading on out to Cashel, on Cashel. A lot of the island, Ackle Island, is of Gaeltacht regions. So on Cashel, I think, is the next port of call, and perhaps a hot coffee and a biscuit for our effort in cycling from Mulranny right out to Ackle Island. But we still have to cycle back. So hopefully the gods will bestow good weather on our return trip when we begin it. Now this section of the Great Western Greenway that we're presently on, from Ackle Sound out to on Cashel, which is Cashel, is the latest addition. I think it's a 5, 6 or 7 kilometre addition to the Greenway. So this Greenway will run from Cashel all the ways back through Mulranny and out into Westport. Tomorrow we're going to cycle from Mulranny Hotel, which is our home away from home, and we're going to cycle in the opposite direction from Mulranny on down the Great Western Greenway to Westport and back. So that's a fair hike. So we will have completed the full Great Western Greenway. Pushing into a pretty severe hill now, even with electric e-bike, you still have to go through the procedures of gearing and pedal assist and so forth. But I'm heading up a very windswept mountainside here now, on my way to Cashel. And I'll show you dancing sunbeams and shadows on golden clad hills off in the horizon. And here you can see there's still turf cutting, though it be on a smaller scale in the valleys here. So I'll pull over here and I'll show you this. Well, folks, here on top of a hill, and I mean on top of a hill on the Great Western Greenway, the sun is beaming down, but there's a breeze coming in from across the Atlantic, and it would take your head off, helmet and the lot. But I love it. I will not complain about the weather today, and rarely do. But this is some country, and today on my birthday, what better present could I have?
If you can hear me, we're on the most exposed section of the Great Western Greenway. There's not a tree or a bush, only bogs to my left, my right, to my front and my rear. Grazing sheep and sun dancing shadows on the slopes of the high mountains. It's around 9 degrees, but it's very, very windy. Even with good gear and a good machine underneath me and fit and athletic legs attached to my hips, it's hard going getting across this expanse of open countryside. So we should be coming close sooner or later to the end of this Greenway. And then we have the long cycle back to Mulranny. Well, we've arrived on Cashel, had a boiling, piping hot pot of tea, 2 fruit scones, blackcurrant jam and cream, and we're back on the trail. Now the return trip to Mulranny. Weather is fine, we've the winds to our back, so the pedal to the metal, literally, and we're heading for our home away from home. Well, folks, we're on our return trip from Cashel across in to the mainland from Achill Island. It's quite nippy now, quite windy, very blustery, but very dry.
but we've the wind to our backs, and we're after making massive progress in the last 45 minutes. We're nearly back in Mulranny, so beautiful trip, invigorating, great to be out and about in the great outdoors. But it's quite cold this morning. Kate has gone off ahead of me. Breakfast early, showered, up, packed and gone. Today we'll do the return trip from Mulranny to Westport, out through Newport and back to our hotel in Mulranny. It's quite a big cycle. So by the end of today we will have cycled the full length of the Great Western Greenway from Westport to Newport to Mulranny to Achill and out to Cashel on Achill Island and return. So a big cycle. So there we go. Now I'm going to cycle on and catch up with my good wife. Okay. Now we're back into a newly restored Greenway, and we're just about to go under one of the old railway bridges. These bridges were a work of art. The stonework is so precise. I've just pulled up here, waiting for my good wife to come along, and it's so still this morning. I'm looking across the valleys there at Crowpatrick, and the summit shrouded in a thick blanket of grey white fog. It's quite cold. In fact, it's very, very cold this morning. No. We head onwards. The next port of call, I think, will be Newport. Quite a lot of narrow gates on this Great Western Greenway. Quite a lot of narrow gates. So one has to be rather vigilant and cautious. The countryside here is very, very desolate. Awfully wild, rugged. Some parts of it are forested to a small degree, but the majority of it is bog, wetland, peatland as far as the eye can see. This is County Mayo on a dry, sunny but very frosty morning. The second week of November 2023. It's rarely that you can get onto a greenway here in Ireland, and we have many, many greenways and many now in construction as well. But rarely you can do 40, 50, 60 kilometers on these greenways without encountering another cyclist or walker. We've been on many this year, and it's mayhem, and people don't adhere to any sort of rules. They walk in front of you. They walk in front of you with dog leashes, these retractable dog leashes, and the minder's at one side of your track and the dog is on the other side, and there's a lead in between, so it can be quite precarious. But when you do one like this now, we haven't met anybody, and we're now cycling an hour. And the same yesterday. when you stop and get off the bike on the side of the hills here, riding through these Great Western Greenway, and you're in the middle of no place. Well, you're in the middle of some place, but it looks and feels like the middle of no place. There's no houses, millions of sheep, and the peace and the quiet, and the haunting beauty of this rugged landscape. This is what life is all about. Today, left Mulranny at early morning, frosty morning, and we've cycled onto Newport and into Westport, and from Westport back to Newport and back here to Mulranny. Big cycle. And now we have to make our way from County Mayo to North Cork in the south of Ireland. So 4 days of adventure. Weather hasn't been too good, but it hasn't been too bad either. But regardless, we got out and about, and we've done what we said we would do. So from the Great Western Greenway in County Mayo, bid you all farewell. Take care, God bless you all. Bye-bye.